Welcome everyone to our ITGL International Teaching and Global Leadership Virtual Information Session. Today we are going to focus on the applied research focus area within our master's degree in ITGL here in the School of Education. My name is Serena Stewart. I am Associate Director of Admissions, and I work with prospective students and applicants who are looking to start in the ITGL program.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Adams, and I am the director of the ITGL program. I'm also an associate professor here at the School of Education. And you can see here a little bit on the slide, a little bit of my research and professional background. I've done extensive work living and learning and teaching and doing research in East and a little bit of Southeast Asia. I was a Fulbright scholar also in Indonesia. Um, and I'm really excited to talk with you about the applied research focus area today. I'll be having a few of our current applied research area students join us today to talk about their experience, which I'm very excited about. And I advise these students in this focus area in the ITGL program. So, just for those of you who are relatively new to ITGL, want to highlight that there are other informational webinars that talk about the entire ITGL program and the admissions process, and also some of our other features such as extended learning in greater detail. But today, like a few other webinars we've had recently, the mission is to really to go in depth and talk about our applied research focus area. So you can see over here on the slide that we have 7 focus areas in ITGL right now. Applied research being a relatively new focus area. One of our panelists today is the first applied research focus area student, and a couple others that are in the first cohort of students. We have a new focus area in AI and learning innovation, and then also recently with our recently admitted spring cohort, we do have some students doing individualized. So today I'll be talking about applied research. What is it? Who comes to do applied research? What do you do after applied research? So the applied research focus area, really, the focus of it is to prepare students for entry into competitive PhD programs or research-focused careers by combining foundational coursework in research methods at the graduate level, right? Many of our students come in with research methods from undergrad, but we're providing graduate level research training with meaningful real-world research experience. Students develop or can refine if they come in with some research experience, quantitative and qualitative method skills for social science. The focus really is on social science research, while applying these skills to educational challenges, problems that are the focus of research projects here at the School of Education, with School of Education faculty, with our research centers, or in other parts of the university. And the focus of this focus area really is to equip graduates with the intellectual preparation, also the practical research experience, and then honestly, the confidence that students really need to pursue doctoral study or also research-oriented roles in, development, the nonprofit sector, or other research settings that will eventually inform educational innovation, policy, and leadership. And so some people ask about sort of the origin of the ITGL applied research area. And so I want to say that one, we found that among our ITGL students, many of these students were, well, not many, some of these students were interested in pursuing research programs in PhD and other types of doctoral programs after ITGL. And we found that these students were coming to us asking for more ways to get research training. And so we decided that it made sense, number one, to think more carefully about how to prepare our students for entry into competitive PhD programs and to do it in a very deliberate way. And then I think also more recently, the landscape of higher education and PhD admissions has been undergoing some shifts in the United States. Many of you may have heard about like funding constraints or budgetary pressures in higher ed. Some PhD programs have paused admissions for years or two, or they've reduced the cohort size of their PhD programs. At the same time, there's a rising applicant volume. So the landscape of higher ed and admissions really has shifted. And so part of our goal is to really respond in some ways to this shift and give our students increased preparation and advantages to help them secure spots in PhD programs in the future. And so, how do we do that? Like this is really the intentionality, I think, of the ITGL Applied Research Focus Area. So our goal is for students to leave here with real world research experience. And so while students in other focus areas in ITGL have a pretty open selection of what they do for their extended learning experience, we require applied research students to do a research-oriented extended learning. And we will be talking about that. And our guests will talk to you about what they've been doing for their extended learning. Also, we have found that strong faculty mentorship is really important in grooming students for PhD applications. And also those close relationships between faculty and students in applied research can allow faculty members to write the type of recommendation letters that really speak to PhD admissions committees. And I myself have been on the PhD admissions committee here at Hopkins, at Stanford, and also at Drexel University in a past life. So I've seen a little bit about how these programs work. So in this sense, we're really thinking about what do students need to get ready to both get into a PhD program, but then also to be really successful when they get there, right? And so one of the things that we're trying to do is think about how to help students have big ideas, right? So in that sense, and I'll talk about it in a moment, the ITGL curriculum exposing students to AI and education courses, global policy courses, courses on mind-brain teaching. So different areas of the educational space separate from the research methods training is a way for them to think about what's happening in the field, what's happening in the world, how can I use my research training to ask and answer sort of important questions in my future work. Also to provide, direct research experience through extended learning, but I think you'll find that several of our students seek additional research experiences. So I'm working with two of the students here on my projects today, and these are not even their extended learning experiences. They're like extra research experience they're having. And then one of our third students today brought me her own project, and I'm helping her on the side with it. So I'd say these students are really interested in pursuing research experience. And I think with that we help students develop what I hope at the end is sort of a clear research identity and confidence that will help move them forward in either a research-oriented career, a research-oriented position, maybe between their master's program and a PhD program, and the confidence that they need to really excel in that area. So that's really what applied research is all about. And how do we do that? So I think about when we think about how do we do these things, I would say there's three pieces here. So one is coursework. So what are students doing in their courses? I just spoke about that a little bit about sort of core courses that are about substance, and then also courses that are more about research training outside of class in extended learning experiences, which are really like research internships. And then I think you'll find that our students are engaged in other types of extracurricular activities that might mean participating in a research project with another faculty. It might be in other parts of the university. And also we're attending, a bunch of us are going to a graduate student research conference in Washington, D.C. This Saturday. So there are other ways to think about developing research questions and research ideas just in your extracurricular life here in ITGL at Johns Hopkins. So I think I've summed this one up a little bit already. And so this is just a quick blip here of what the ITGL course sequence looks like. You can find this also in other webinars about ITGL, but you can actually see the yellow courses there are the courses that are specific to applied research students. And so again, students get training in social science research methods generally, and then 1 semester of quantitative method statistics and 1 semester of qualitative methods. So some students might ask, oh, why do I need to do this if I'm coming into ITGL from an undergraduate psych background? Like I've already taken statistics, right? So I would say that we are working on teaching these courses at the graduate level. So while the statistical concepts or the qualitative, like methodological concepts may be the same, right? Those don't change. That we're trying to go deeper. You're doing more independent work, and there's more focus on the questions that we can ask with particular methods, how to choose a method based on the different research questions you have. And then also so important when we think about people that are pursuing a doctoral program, what do my findings mean? I have all this statistical output, or I have all this interview data. How do I make sense of it? And then how do I communicate it to people, policymakers, the outside world? So we also focus a lot on interpretation. And one of the things we're hoping here to do as well is that to prepare students to have that graduate level first year training often that you might get as an entry level PhD student, so that when you enter a doctoral program, you can really hit the ground running with a real sense of how this works, a good understanding of graduate level methods training. So, who thrives in the applied research focus area? Also, this would be like who should come join us and do this kind of work. So it's not for everyone, right? And I would say I would actually characterize all of the students that are here with us today in these ways, right? So people that are intellectually curious, analytically minded, so that you enjoy doing research, right? That you're considering PhD study in the future or an other type of research-oriented career. And I'll talk a little bit about that more towards the end. That you're really seeking mentorship, I think, for research, being part of a group of people, a scholarly community with faculty and other students who care about research training and care about research questions. We have a bunch of students, as I just said, getting up at like 6 in the morning to take a train to DC to go to a research conference on the weekend that starts like at like 8 in the morning. And that's because they care about the topics and they want to go support their classmates that are presenting their research in that space. Students who are dedicated to strengthening their methods training or also their academic writing skills, right? Communicating what you learn in your classes and research is a big part of what we're trying to do. And then I would also say this part is like so important, and I don't know that students always think about it before they come to ITGL or even as they're applying to a doctoral program. Students who are looking for exposures to ideas, right? So a lot of people, I think, can excel at methods, and methods is certainly really important when we think about research and like doctoral study. But PhD candidates and researchers really have to have ideas that change the way we think about problems or the solutions. And so one of the ways people, I think, develop those ideas is by getting exposed to diverse perspectives, diverse ideas, people that think differently than you, people who might challenge your ideas or ask you questions. And so we're really trying to expose students to ideas. And with that, I want to introduce 3 of our applied research students that we have here today. I mentioned Feng. It was our very first applied research focus area student who came last January, and she's graduating this May, and I'm sure has great things ahead of her. So know when she speaks with you today, she's coming to this with more than a year of experience here at Hopkins. And then Carol and Qingyang joined ITGL as part of the fall 2025 cohort. So they've been here more than a semester and are actively engaged in research, and they will be completing the program this summer. So I'm going to turn this over and let each one of you just sort of introduce yourself, right? Just sort of who you are, like why you came here, like what your research interests are, and then we'll sort of move on and talk a little bit more specifically. I'll ask you questions about extended learning and other things. Okay. Can we just go in the order of the slides? So Feng, can you start us off, please?
Hi all, I'm Fong. I'm as Jennifer introduced, the first student in the applied research focus area. Proudly so. So I how do I start? Been here for I think over a year and so excited for graduation. And I'm really excited to kind of today like share with you all my experience at ITGL. Just full on honest, genuine experience, not for, not promotions or anything, but really how I see it and how I've gone through it. Um, my research interests, I think, would probably mostly focus on education policies, since I have a background prior to undertaking this degree in studying and working in law. Um, but I do education policies in like this, I think, sub area where I'm very much like equity driven, equity focused. I do, I I would say like my biggest passion is where serving like marginalized, historically marginalized communities. Um, and what I do is, as Jennifer mentioned, I have, a research project going on. I'm also working as a graduate student ambassador at the school, to, really further my interest of serving the people. So that's me. And, you keep hearing from me later on.
Great. Carol?
Hi everyone. My name is Carol, and I'm a current ITGL student in applied research track for sure. I came to ITGL last August, and I think one of the biggest reason I choose this track and also this program is I see this track as like a pre-PhD preparation. So it helps me like shift from consuming some articles, some research to begin to produce it. So it's like a big change for me. Um, and also I'm really glad to share my experience here today.
Carol, can you tell us, Fun mentioned that she came into the program with a background in like law already. What did you study as an undergrad? Like, were you involved in research as an undergrad? What did you study prior to coming?
Okay, so my undergraduate was in the Ohio State University, and I studied marketing. Um,
Marketing.
yes, doing like the surveys, things of our customers.
Great, thanks. And I guess, that's one of the things I think we'll find out that that Yang also has a different background. Is that there isn't a particular background of students. It's more students that are interested in research broadly in social sciences. So, thanks so much, Carol. Yang, what about you?
Hi guys. I actually have a different background than Carol and Vaughn. I'm majoring in quantitative psychology in my undergrad, and the reason I go to ITGO is I was trying to like applying for PhD programs last year and both master program at the same time, and the PhD didn't went very well. And the reason I concluded is that I may not have like strong research experiences and a clear research question. That's when I observe my other peers are doing. And that's why I come to here to figure out like what is my actual research interest and my own research questions. I have working in like longitudinal data analysis previously, mostly focusing on how to handling missing data. Um, and I think my experiences at here provide me more view about like how to develop my own research interest. I'm currently working with Dr. Adams about a climate education topic. And I hope like if you decided to join us, you will like figure out your own research interest in the future.
I want to go on and talk about extended learning in a minute, but before I do that, I did want to ask you guys in terms of coursework, right? So you're taking courses in method. So all of you have taken Intro to Social Science Research, who is actually taught by one of our faculty members who works at one of the Hopkins Research Centers, the Center for Research and Reform in Education, teaches that Intro to Social Science class. Fung had the experience of taking her methods classes with some of the EDD students because she was one of our first students here. So she was able to interact with some doctoral students. I'm teaching the Intro to Statistics class right now for Carol and Xingyang, and they'll be doing work in the summer in qualitative methods, right? So we've talked about this idea of sort of methods preparation. And I think all of you had some type of methods training at some level before you came in to ITGL. But Chinyoung, you were just talking about like how you came here to develop a research question and like figure out what your own research passion is. How have you been able to use like the other ITGL classes? So thinking not just giving you the method skills, which I think we're really intentionally trying to do, but how have like some, can you each one of you just sort of speak about, I don't know, ideas that you've developed or questions that you've thought of just from doing work in or other types of classes in ITGL? Does anyone have anything they could share with us here?
Yeah, I can share. I feel like honestly, all of the IGCO like classes I've been in, even if it doesn't have like research in the name, it's actually very much like, firstly, it's very research focused. I mean, we're at like a master's level degree at Hopkins, right? So a lot of, even in, I can like at the top of my head, I can think of entrepreneurship and education, which, I don't think I'm ever going to be an entrepreneur in education. And so I found it helpful because it helped me think about problems in a different way. It thinks about problems from the perspective of a different stakeholder than I might usually do as a researcher. So I think for me, like that class was super memorable and really helpful as well.
That's great. That's great. That sort of that different perspective taking is something that think can be very helpful in getting to those types of personal passions and questions that Ching Yang was actually talking about. I don't know, Ching Yang, Carol, do you have any thoughts on that, or maybe not yet? It's okay. Carol, do you have something? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the curriculum in our program is very like a board area. So which allows the students to like explore various areas or like focus areas with education. For example, like last semester, we had a course about like the global education things, and which really expand my perspective and made me think about like more attentive to the issues of education equality around the world. Yes.
Great. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking about. I mean, and that was my own experience also as a master's student. Honestly, I think in a strong master's program, one of the things that we're trying to think about is like students might be like, oh, why do I need to take this course? Like, I don't care about organizations or something, that type of thing. But the idea would be for you to start thinking in a new way because of your exposure to ideas. And so it helps you just think about what good research looks like, what questions you can have, and like what kind of perspectives are out there in the world. All right, I'm going to move on to extended learning because I feel like that's one of the things that's really exciting for us. So if you've been following us here at ITGL, if you're an admitted student or you're thinking about applying, one of the things that we try to talk about throughout the process is the extended learning program. So extended learning, we have students placed often in Baltimore, in schools, in different organizations. Sometimes people are working with on extended learning experiences even outside of the city of Baltimore, for example. But as I mentioned, our applied research students all spend their extended learning time, which is really like a mini internship, I'd say. It should be 4 to 6 hours a week, working on an actual, job project for our research students, an actual research project. And these can vary. In applied research, we want our students getting research experience, but it really depends on what type of extended learning they sign up for within extended learning, right? So we have students that are working on various research projects with faculty at Johns Hopkins School of Education research centers. And you also can explore the website to learn about different research centers. We have 5 different research centers or institutes at the School of Education. We also have had students working on in research centers that are outside of the School of Ed that are just in the university more broadly. As I mentioned, in past years, I have had students working with me on as their extended learning. I have not done this year, and instead I just have some students, Ching Yang and Feng both mentioned that they were working together with me on separate projects, so I'm just mentoring students and involving them in some of my projects. Other faculty may do that. ITGL's faculty member, Dr. Yes Shen, has the Mint Lab, where they do language education and multicultural, multi-language learning research as part of her Mint Lab. And then also we have people working with faculty members also at other research universities that maybe the faculty member is a former Hopkins student and they're working someplace else, or they're affiliated with us in some way and they end up wanting to mentor some of our students through the applied research experiential learning program. So what I was hoping is that you guys could each talk a little bit about your own experiences, and then I can throw in information about some other types of projects that I know some of your classmates are working on. So, Chingyang, do you want to start us off? I know you're working at the Center for Research and Reform in Education. Is that right?
Yes, for sure. So my extended learning is at like the CRRE. It's a research center for our school, and I'm also co-working with Fawn in this with Dr.
Oh,
Riley. We're mainly focusing on like using quantitative and qualitative methods to evaluate the current education program coming in United States. Recently we are focusing on, I think, it's a reading program in Oakland Unified District School District, and we need to like extract information from the interview and collect this information and analyze it. Uh, and we also need to do some like basic descriptive statistic for the survey we give to the district. That's some like that's like maybe first stage of our work.
Fung, do you want to jump in and add anything more about that?
Yeah, well, I think for me, I'll just add on to that. I feel like actually being able to work in CRE, it is like an exposure to, this area in educational research that I have not really, that I feel like I in my personal circle we don't talk about, which is like evaluation and monitoring, right? So I think for me, sometimes like I feel like we need to just like jump into doing things for us to figure out if we like it or not, if it's something that's for us or not, if it's something we want to do for the rest of our lives or for an extended period of time or not. So I think that was really helpful. And I think one of the opportunities I also really appreciate from my extended learning, because I've been here for a year and I've also worked at, the Center for Technology in Education, being able to help with the project on teaching students on the autism spectrum disorder, to learn about engineering using VR technology. And it's so completely different from what I usually do, right? Policy, um, and I don't really do policy on technology either. So it was a completely new thing, but I think it really taught me, firstly, the ability to be flexible and also the confidence to know that my research skills can be translated to whichever like environment I'm in, and it's not just limited to what I'm interested in.
That's great. Carol, I want to get to you, but I just want to follow up with that a little bit. So, and just note what Fung was just mentioning about the transferability of the research skills, and then also the idea of just sort of jumping in and doing research, because that's really also really what we're like our sort of emphasis, I think, in the applied research focus area is that we're trying to help students develop research skills and learn about research in a real life way. So we're doing this parallel, right, with the methods training in classes, but the idea is that you could take 3 years of or 4 years of research classes, but what you learn in a textbook or in a class very seldom exactly lines up with the way it plays out in the real world. And so we're really trying to teach students to learn to be researchers by doing guided, right? Doing guided research on real research projects. And also that there's different ways to participate in a research project and that our students jump in sort of at different stages, right? So Ting Yang was just mentioning that they were like at an earlier stage in a project where they're actually, it sounds like collecting data, working on surveys, right? We also have had students who've jumped into projects at a later stage, like maybe the data was collected 2 years ago and now they're jumping in on the analysis stage, right? So part of it is also learning that there are similarities across research projects and you can bring your research skills that you're developing and learn about research, even if the topic isn't exactly what you thought you would be interested in doing, right? And that broadens your experience and actually is the way we do doctoral research training here as well. We have PhD students working very closely with their faculty mentors on projects that they're deeply passionate about from a research perspective, but we also have PhD students who are working in our research centers and working with other faculty to say like, oh, well, I've never collected qualitative interview data before. I should learn that skill. So I'm going to join this research project and help actually do that. So just wanted to emphasize that. And I may have a few more questions about this, but Carol, I want you to jump in and say what you're working on.
Okay. I am actually kind of different from those two students. I'm actually doing my extended learning outside of the Johns Hopkins research projects. As I just mentioned, I'm in like marketing background, so coming to this program, I'm kindly like have no formal research background and feel a little bit are uncertain about like what I'm going to do, like how to initiate a project. But we have like a mentorship from an ITGL alumni, Dr. Wang, and learning from her, I gradually learned how to like conceptualize study and frame research questions. Also, navigate the research progress like step by step. Um, I really appreciate her, and so my current work is actually centers on hallucination over learning, to examine like the implication of AI generated in accuracy in educational settings. Yes.
That's great, great. And maybe you can talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the conference, Carol. But yes, that also just illustrates that students are working, I think, outside of Hopkins and also at different sort of stages. We have some students who have worked really doing large scale like lit reviews and doing different types of annotated bibliographies in the beginning. We have students who, we had a student a couple years ago, actually, before we had applied research, but worked in one of our research centers where he worked on a project. And in the fall semester, he spent so much of his time like trying to get the people for the project, like calling principals, like asking them to be in the study. And I think at the beginning he was like, is this research? I'm just calling like all these people all the time. But I will show him on one of the later slides. He ended up sticking with this project and he is like a co-author on a publication and went with them to the American Educational Research Association conference because he stuck with the project like all the way through and got to see like lots of different sort of stages. We have students doing different things. And again, this is about 4 to 6 hours a week. Students do this in the fall semester and in the spring semester. And then many students also engage in research outside of their extended learning experience. And so I don't know, Feng, and I'm going to pull up, and I guess, Serena, maybe we can move to the graduate research slide. We'll talk about that a little bit, but I also want people to talk about stuff that I may not even know about and like what people are doing to develop research skills and questions like outside of coursework and extended learning. So I've mentioned that we have students going to the Graduate Student Research Conference tomorrow in DC. These are students, this is from last year. So we had a student present last year, and we also then visited the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg Center. We have a larger group of students going tomorrow. Students, 2 of our doctoral students, but then 4 ITGL students are actually presenting their own research at the conference. And I want to say that we have 20 or 30 ITGL students going to Washington to be support and observers for their classmates, but also to learn from all the other graduate students that are presenting work at this conference. So I'd say that this is something that we typically would do. This is the second time we've done this. Last year, we joined this Graduate Student Research Association that includes other universities in the greater Washington, D.C. area. And can't promise 100%, but there are rumors that we are going to be able to host this conference here, possibly at the School of Ed next year, which would be amazing. So Feng and Carol actually are both are presenting papers at this conference tomorrow. So I don't know if you guys just want to say a quick bit about what you're doing tomorrow. Like, what are you presenting? What are you presenting? Are you excited? Carol?
Um, yes, so my conference presentation focused on like how AI system may like reproduce the existing educational inequalities. So I actually like want to see how different like access AI literacy, digital fluency, and critical evaluation skills. Um, and I think this conference can really help us as like a pre-PhD students. It allow me to like test my argument publicly and also force me to define my reasoning. Also, I'm a kind like introvert person, so it's a very good opportunity for me to like present myself and try to practice. Yes.
Fun. You want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm presenting on language education in the Philippines. So I'm Vietnamese. We're really the point of the presentation, I think, is to examine how, the education system might not respond to the linguistic diversity that exists in many places, including the Philippines and including Vietnam. And this was actually a project that I developed during one of my classes, actually taught by Jennifer. So I developed it there. And really it was honestly it was like such an amazing opportunity to like look at that topic because I never thought that it was something like language policy was never like one of the things I thought I'd look at, but having looked at it, I feel like it brings so much value to my repertoire of research knowledge, and I also feel like it motivates me almost to bring what I know back to Vietnam, where we're kind of experiencing a lot of the same problems, and maybe do my own original research there as well.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for both of them. And we are having a practice run at 10 o'clock today where the people that are presenting are practicing, and we're going to sort of critique and help each other improve before Saturday. And the other thing that Carol said, and I just wanted to emphasize, is that these types of things like graduate student research conferences are certainly good ways to practice refining your ideas and speaking in public, but they are really friendly places to help develop confidence and also meet other graduate students that are interested in ideas that are similar to you, right? That's how scholarly communities actually develop. So this would be an example of an extracurricular thing that people are doing like outside of ITGL, formal coursework or extended learning to develop like research skills. I don't know if anyone wants to sort of quickly chime in about anything else that people are doing outside of classes and extended learning to develop research skills. Anyone? I mean, I know Fung and Xingyang are working on a research project with me, right? So I was just jump in here and say that they're different research projects that a lot of our students in the fall come in and they have a really good extended learning experience in the fall semester and end up finding faculty that have research interests that they're interested in or other projects and end up jumping onto other types of projects to develop more research skills. Um, and I think that there's just opportunities to do that. And again, this is an example of the conference that we're going to tomorrow. And then I think also, as I mentioned on the next slide, that we have had students also through that work with faculty go on to national professional research conferences with faculty. So over on the left-hand side is one of our students that I mentioned. This is an ITGL student who went on to the American Educational Research Association conference. He's actually working in a research center right now. So he has a research job post ITGL, and I believe he will eventually be applying to PhD programs, but he's taken what he's learned and he's working in a research center, but got to present their findings at a big national conference. He's right there in the middle. You can see how happy he looks. And that's me with a couple of ITGL students at the Comparative and International Education Conference last year. And Fung is actually going to this conference with me this year in San Francisco because we are presenting the paper that we've been actually working on together. So not for everyone, right? But some students do end up getting engaged in research projects that take them to national level conferences. So I just wanted to say a couple more things about what our students have been doing after ITGL, and then I'm going to just open it up to any questions that we might actually have from the audience, or I might just impose some to our awesome students. Um, so we do have a record of placing ITGL graduates in PhD programs, competitive research PhD programs. So you can see here that we have recent graduates that have been admitted to here at Hopkins. We actually just had an ITGL alumni from last year get admitted to the program here at Hopkins. UCLA, UVA, Michigan, Maryland, Florida, William and Mary. Lots of really strong programs are places where we have ITGL students right now, and many of them do stay connected with us, and so we're able to find out about what they found successful, from their preparation here, and many of them are available to our current students to talk with them about sort of tips for going on to graduate work. And then I would just also say, those of you that have been following any of the work that we've been presenting in ITGL, is that one of the things I've been trying to talk more about is the different career pathways that ITGL alumni follow. And so you can see that there are a lot of different career pathways here, but I've highlighted the ones in red that I think are probably most aligned, although people with doctorate degrees work in lots of areas now. But also just wanted to highlight that we have alumni that either decide to pursue a research job, right, and not go on to a doctoral program, or many students who decide, wow, this is great, I want to use some of these skills and think about my ideas more for a few years, and then go on and apply to a doctoral program later. And so for example, right now one of the project that Chin Yang is working on with me right now, it also includes an ITGL alumni who is a researcher at UNICEF. So she went on to work for an international organization, and is involved in this project, doing research as her work. We have students who've gone on to work as sort of policy analysts, like with Ministry of Education or other types of nonprofit NGO work. Research skills often position you to lead sort of research project management or participate as some type of, project analyst on large research projects for either research centers or institutes like the American Institute for Research. In China, for example, the Chinese Academy of Science sometimes it hires people with like master's degrees to work on different research projects. Also some researchers work in sort of like UX, project design, management work, different types of higher education and various research institutes. And so we've talked a lot today about trying to develop questions and methods training, because many of our applied research focus area students do want to go on to doctoral degree programs, but also just wanted to emphasize that many students either permanently or as a gap between ITGL and a PhD program do actually pursue research related jobs where their research methods training and interdisciplinary thinking, I think, are real assets to that type of work. And here we are. Oh, Serena, are you okay?
I just couldn't get my cursor over to my other screen to get to my unmute button. So at this time, we are going to open it up for questions from our audience. Please use the Q&A function to ask questions. You can ask questions to our students who are in the applied research area, to Dr. Adams, more broadly about the ITGL program. I'm also happy to answer any questions you may have about the admissions process. So any questions you have, go ahead and put them in the Q&A function. We have about probably 10 minutes or so to take your questions, so please don't be shy if you have any.
While we're waiting for questions to come in, I can ask one that students actually, when they're thinking about this ask me, right? So, um, do you guys feel like you need much research preparation to come to ITGL? So, for example, if you're coming into the ITGL program in applied research and you haven't taken quantitative methods or you haven't worked on a research project before, but you know that you're really interested in this space, is it something that you feel like you can do without that background? What do you guys think? Tell that I have deep thinkers here.
I can go first.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I have like the marketing background, so I don't think like students who come here need like extensive research preparation before coming to ITGL program, and I personally had no formal research background when I entered this program. So I think what matters more is like your intellectual curiosity to research and a willingness to like engage deeply with your I would call it like crazy ideas. And this program is like designed to build your research capacity step by step. So don't worry about it.
I'm also going to like talk about like you do not have to worry about like if you do not have previous background, because this program is going to prepare you well for the future research. Even if you didn't take any statistic class, our intro to statistics is going to prepare you well from like beginners to the people that are able to run statistical model to analyze data. So don't worry about it.
That's great. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
I'm just going to echo the same message, really.
Okay, there's a question in here. Okay. Hi, professors and top students. I saw that you guys talked a lot about the theoretical research part before. Is there any part about field investigation and experience for ITGL program? I think I want to clarify here. Maybe you guys can talk a little bit more about extended learning, but my feeling is that extended learning really is our field investigation here, right? So again, students are learning about research methods in their classes, right? And also, I would say many of the ITGL core classes that we've referenced, like whether it's entrepreneurship and education or Carol talked about global trends. Fung mentions global policy. Many of these courses, while they do provide some theoretical foundational knowledge, many of those courses are also very I would also say applied learning experiences. Like we have students writing policy recommendations. We have students making podcasts to explore, to communicate what they know. So I also don't want to give the impression that we are only theoretically oriented. Because I would say we probably would and I'm interested from the students that we lead more on the applied side. Like how do we apply theory, right? And how do we use knowledge? How do we use research evidence? Which really is part of like the Johns Hopkins brand, right? Like we're about like using research knowledge to solve problems. And that's a much more practical orientation. But the field experience that the questioner was asking about, I would say that is what we're trying to do in extended learning, where we have people learning by doing, sort of doing research, whether it's in the center that Qingyang and Feng were about, whether it's talked about, whether it's the faculty member that's working with Carol on her own project and like developing sort of research training. I have had students in the past, helping me actually engage in real research, in the field, I'd say in the field, right? So, I don't know if you guys want to comment on that anymore. Do you guys, when they say field experience, would you say that extended learning is providing you what people would say field experience is?
I would say so. We get to like, we get to like join interviews and do like many things. We might not be the one administering the interviews ourselves at that stage, but we're, just observing gives us so much experience. I would also say for the qualitative inquiry course that I'm in right now, we also get to do like sort of a practice mini study where we do like observations of, a chosen site where it very much is field work and um, doesn't require an IRB approval. So it's great practice for anybody interested in that.
Actually, that also makes me think. I mean, that's one of the things also you were just talking about the qualitative methods class. I wasn't even thinking about that. But in the quantitative methods class that I'm teaching right now, students will write a research paper using secondary data, and they're using real data from the PISA, so the Program for International Student Assessment, which is data that academics use to publish journal articles, right? So they're using real data to come up with a research question of their own, and they're doing the analysis and statistical software and writing it up the way you would in a journal article. So I would say that's also a version of field experience. So again, we're really like the idea of learning through by doing. So we're emphasize the students getting their hands involved in the research. So. I mean, that's all I can see here for questions. And maybe that's because, oh, wait, we've got one more here. I agree, doing research. Okay. Oh, great. This is just a comment. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for joining us today. So I would say that maybe no questions because you guys did such a great job talking about your own experiences. So I do want to really just thank our ITGL students here today because they're really doing excellent work. And when I think with the future, I think with them all off doing cool research somewhere in a doctoral program. So it makes me excited to have them here talking with you about their experience. I also want to let you know that since I am the advisor for students in the applied research area, if anyone who's watching this has questions about the program or wants to talk about it, you're welcome to reach out to me.
Awesome. Thank you to Dr. Adams and to our ITGL students. My contact information is also here if you have questions about the admissions process, your application to ITGL, or anything relating to arriving to campus. Please reach out. We're here to help and happy that you are considering joining ITGL this fall. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.